I'm pleased to introduce our last speaker and teacher. So Rav David Sperling, Nishmat's Rosh Bet Midrash, was born in Sydney, Australia. He studied at Yeshivat Machon Meir for several years, before studying for over a decade at Yeshivat Ateret Kohanim under the tutelage of Rabbi Shlomo Avner. Rav Sperling received advanced rabbinic ordination from the chief rabbinate of Israel, as well as from Rav Yehuda Henkin Zatzal. Rav Sperling has taught Halacha and Nishmat for many years, as well as Yeshivat Machon Meir. He has published a wide range of halachic articles in journals and on the internet.
Shalom. It's wonderful to be here. It's wonderful that you're here. I'm always here. I teach Yiddish all the time. It's wonderful that you people are here. So like someone just mentioned, this is like what I'm about to teach you now. You shouldn't forget, because you're going to need it another 20 years according to our calendar. When Pesach falls on Motzei Shabbat, it's quite rare. 20 years, then it's going to be another 10. Then it starts getting a bit closer, and then you have another break. We had it a few years ago. So I've got a Devar Torah, which I must use, because 20 years time, this is it. This is why I'm going to use it. And I'm especially happy to use it here in this neighborhood. And in a minute you'll see why. The Gemara in Masechet Pesachim, on Daf Samach Vav 66, tells about, in the time of Beit Sheni, that Pesach fell on a Motzei Shabbat, and the rabbis, the head of the Sanhedrin at that time, didn't know what to do. We do Korban Pesach on the 14th. Really, whenever the Torah talks about Chag Pesach, it's talking about the Chag of sacrificing the Korban. And that's on Erev Pesach. Then we have Chag Matzot, which is on that evening, the following evening, on the night of the 15th. So the 14th Chag Pesach was on Shabbos. What gets the upper hand? Do you do Korban Pesach and it pushes aside Shabbat? Or does Shabbat push aside Korban Pesach? And they just didn't know. Who were the heads of the Sanhedrin at this time? There were 3 brothers, and they were known as the sons of their father. They were known as B'nai Betera. Now, is anyone smiling? B'nai Betera is the name of a very big street just up the road here. You can walk there in 5 minutes. I love living in Israel. I just take Rashi, turn left on a Barbanel, and you're straight down Ramban. So B'nai Betera, this street up there, is named after Shabbos, on Pesach, after Motzei Shabbos. When you next go on that B'nai Betera, that you are in Masechet Pesachim, page 66. So they didn't know. They asked around, and they had no idea what to do. They said, does anyone know? They said, yeah, there's this Rabbi Hillel, he's come from Bavel. I think he knows. So they asked Hillel, and sure enough, Hillel knew. I'm putting together here the version that's written in the Babylonian Gemara and the version that's written in the Yerushalmi Gemara. I'm putting them together, slight differences. So they asked him, and he says this, I've got a proof that we're going to do Korban Pesach on Shabbos. What's my proof? I have a kal v'chomer. He kind of must have pulled on his beard and go like that. I have a kal v'chomer. If Korban Tamid, the daily offering, sacrifice pushes away Shabbos, Korban Pesach, kal v'chomer, they didn't accept it. They said, we don't accept your kal v'chomer. We don't have such a kal v'chomer. So then he brought a Gezerah Shabbat, the same word here, the same word there. Again, they didn't accept it. And then he said, I have a tradition from my rabbis, Shemaiah and Avtalion, who I learned Torah from, and they told me that when Shabbos falls, when Erev Pesach falls on Shabbos, we do Korban Pesach. B'nai Betera accepted it. They had a tradition, a Masorah, that we accept.
They didn't remember that.
They didn't remember. It was very interesting why they didn't remember. The Mefarshim they asked, it's a bigger question than you think. It's not just 20 years, because apparently the first Pesach in the desert that Am Yisrael actually did, that was also on a Shabbos. So you would think that we would have a pretty good tradition about it. So why they forgot, we're going to put that aside for a moment. But God caused them to forget. And that's a good lead on to the next line in the Gemara. They were so happy with Hillel that they appointed him as the head of the Sanhedrin in their place. And he spent all day just giving shiurim about Pesach that falls on Motzei Shabbos, and everyone was happy and everything. And he starts giving them,
Because he knew the answer?
because he knew the answer. It was so good, he had his tradition, they pointed it, it was great. So, and then he started really giving them a little bit of a dig. And he said, you had to schlep me all the way from Babylon to appoint me to be the head of the Sanhedrin because you guys didn't learn properly, and you didn't learn with my rabbis, Shmaya and Avtalion, and you guys forgot. And he really gets into them. We don't know what their answer was, but we do know that they asked him another question. They said, so Rabbi, tell us, tomorrow we're going to do Korban Pesach, because you taught us. Can all the Jews bring their knives to do the shchita with also?
They have to bring
We have to carry. Are we allowed to carry? Does that push off? I mean, the Korban pushes off, but what about carrying the knives? Does that push off too or not? Hashem has a wonderful sense of humor. And the Gemara says that Hillel forgot the answer. after telling them, so he forgot the answer. And then he says a wonderful thing. He said, but don't worry, we're not lost. We'll wait till tomorrow, because if the Jewish people are not prophets, they're the children of prophets. Im lo neviim hem, b'nei neviim hem. Let's wait and see what they do. And tomorrow on Shabbos morning, everyone came with their Korban Pesach and pushed into the wool of the sheep. Each person had their knife. So they didn't carry it, but the sheep carried it, and that was apparently okay. That's the end of the Gemara. It's a beautiful Gemara. And I was thinking to myself, what is the Gemara trying to tell us? I'd like to suggest that the Gemara is trying to tell us this. The Gemara is trying to tell us that when it comes to Pesach, it's not a time for your wonderful chidushim in learning Torah. Pesach is not a time, that we keep for Shavuot. Pesach is not a time for putting on your beard and going like this with your thumb and bringing a kal v'chomer or a gezerah Shabbat. Pesach is a time to meet the intrinsic holiness of Am Yisrael that came to light on Pesach. On Pesach, the Jewish people were born, and the intrinsic holiness of Am Yisrael was revealed in this world. And so then when he says, I've got a tradition from my rabbis who have from their rabbis, he goes straight back to the source of the Kedusha of Am Yisrael. That's Pesach. But comes along, the Gemara tells us another thing. That intrinsic holiness is not just back there. Wonderful, you can connect back to there. Don't lose. Grab that chain. But that holiness exists somewhere else. It exists in Am Yisrael today. We have that holiness. Im lo neviim hem b'nei neviim. If they're not prophets, they're the children of prophets. When I start my Seder every year, my mother, she lived well and long, gave me the Haggadah that my grandfather Zatzal used to use when my mother was a little girl. It's English Hebrew. On the front cover, it's got embossed on it a map of the Middle East. It's got, a line from Egypt with a dotted line heading up of where the Jewish people left. And down here it says Egypt. And up here it says Palestine. Because it's printed in 1908 or something. And I start the Seder and show my children this, and I say, children. Actually, I show my grandchildren. Nice. I say, I'm your Saba, and I had a Saba, and he did Seder, and this is his Haggadah. And he had a Saba, and his Saba had a Saba. I want you to close your eyes and go back and think of all the Sabas of your Sabas. It doesn't take much long till you're leaving Egypt. And then I say, come back. Now I don't want you to think back, up that way. Now I want you to think about the neighbors next door. And the building next door. And all the suburb. And all the city of Yerushalayim. And now spread out. Tel Aviv. Hebron. Petach Tikva. Now spread out. Turkey. England. Australia. America. The whole world, Jews everywhere are doing Seder just like you. Am Yisrael is together this night. That's what this Gemara is telling us. That there are two sources of the intrinsic holiness of Am Yisrael. One is our tradition back, and one is the holiness that's revealed in Am Yisrael today. I often think about that, and you imagine some story of a young guy going, his grandfather's just passed away, he lives in Wagga Wagga, lives out in the middle of nowhere, and he's going through his grandfather's papers, and he discovers that his grandfather's Jewish. He said, "What? I'm Jewish, what?" And then he picks up his book and it said, Haggadah. Wow! And he decides that he's going to do this festival of Pesach, right? He's going to do it. And he's got the unscrolled Haggadah. And it's got all... He might fulfill all the halachas. His cup will have 86 milliliters, and he'll lean to the left, and he'll eat that much matzah. But believe me, he won't have seder. Why won't he have seder? He will not know to stand on the chair and sing Manish Tanah. He will not know to steal the afikoman. He won't know to put a carrot on top of the gefilte fish. He won't know to tell that joke they say every year. Why does the matzah have holes? Because we're all holy people. And he won't know. One is Hashem, one is... He just won't know. His Seder won't be a Seder.
But he has to start somewhere.
And so he should come to he should come to our house. He should come and connect to the holiness of Am Yisrael that exists today. So that was the Devar Torah. Next 20 years, keep it in mind, right? B'nai B'Tera, right? They didn't know each other. We're now going to spend the next half hour or so talking halacha, and please feel free to put your hand up and ask questions as we go. So let's just get our timeline right. This year is very interesting. We're going to do B'dikat Chametz tonight early. We normally do the checking for Chametz. I wrote all these down on a piece of paper. If you don't have a piece of paper, you can get it as you leave the door. Right? They're all there on a piece. Yes, and I spent a lot of time trying to... You write all the... It's much easier to write a whole book about it. And there are books about it. Big, thick books. And I wrote it all in little letters there for you. So that was very... Enjoy. But I hope to tell you some things that aren't on the piece of paper. Is it good? Okay. So the first thing, we normally do B'dikat Chametz on the night before Pesach. But now we're going to do it on Thursday night. We're going to do a bracha. By Thursday evening, around 7:30 when it gets dark here in Israel, you're going to light the candle, or you can use a flashlight. You're going to say the bracha, and you're going to do B'dikat Chametz. Your whole house by that point should be kosher to Pesach. Pretty much your whole house could be kosher to Pesach.
You can always use a flashlight, is what you're saying?
Yeah, you can always use a flashlight. And it's probably better. It's nice, it's like tradition, which is very nice, the flame. But believe me, you are not going to check behind the curtains with a flame. You're just not going to do it. And the Gemara says that we should use a certain flame and not a big flame because we might be scared of checking. So if you use a flashlight, and I myself don't have a mobile phone, but I'm told that they created flashlights for Seder night and make sure that every single Jewish person has one with them all year long in their pocket, just ready for that. And so they say you can also make phone calls on it or something. But that's what it's for there. You can light that and use it, and you will check better with it. But someone who wants to use a flame, that's good. In my house, we use a flame for the beginning because, like, we're traditional Jews. And then we turn on the flashlight. But there's no logic to that. It's probably better to use a flashlight. Rabbi Navid, what do you...
We do both. All the kids are with flashlights, but we do have one person with
that. So because it's tradition, what can we do? That's what our parents did. And it's nice. It looks like really romantic. Okay, so we're going to do the B'dikat Chametz. We're going to check. The house is going to be clean for Chametz. You're going to hide the 10 pieces, the whole thing. You're going to say the bracha. And then when you've got it, at the end, you're going to say what's printed in the Haggadah, Kol Chamira, all the Chametz and leaven that I have in my house. And you're going to say what's printed in the Haggadah to nullify any Chametz. Now the truth is that in a normal year, we'd be burning the chametz the following morning. And we're going to do that this year too, but we're allowed to keep eating chametz until Shabbos morning. That's a lot of time. But here, pay attention. If you order pizza on Thursday night or Friday morning, and you let your kids eat it on the couch, your whole search was absolutely worthless. Right? It doesn't make any sense to search and then spread the chametz out again. So what we do is any chametz we want to leave over to eat until Shabbos morning at 10 o'clock in Israel time, that should all be put in a box on a corner of the balcony, somewhere secure. For this reason, every house was given a good Jewish housewife who will say, "Don't take that anywhere," and stay right there. A person should be quite serious about that, because if you eat chametz everywhere, you have to check again. Yofi. As I said, we can now eat chametz till Shabbos morning, 10 o'clock. Nonetheless, so we don't get confused in the following years, we are going to burn our chametz on Friday morning like we would as if if Seder night was Friday night. It's not, it's Saturday night. But we're going to burn it Friday morning before the last time for chametz, which is not the last time for chametz. We're going to burn it by 11:20 in Israel, everyone according to their time. And when we burn it, we are not going to say what we would traditionally say, kol chamira, because we're planning to keep eating chametz. If you're not planning to keep eating chametz, for some reason, you're going to a hotel, whatever, then you could say it then. But we're going to not say it then, we're going to say it on Shabbos morning at around 11:15. Okay? The second kol chamira, the one that we normally say in the morning of burning chametz, instead of saying it on Friday morning, we're going to burn the chametz on Friday morning. 10:30, 11 o'clock, burn your chametz, dispose of your chametz. Do not say the kol chamira. The kol chamira should be said on Shabbos morning before 11:20. Yes, ma'am.
I have kids coming from the States. They're arriving only on Friday. When should they burn their chametz already in Boston before they leave?
What time is their flight getting here?
2 o'clock Friday afternoon.
These guys have emunah. These guys. So I would tell you, in Ben Gurion Airport, anyone coming through customs after like there, they'll be able to get chametz through customs because you can keep eating chametz till 2. So they'll take away from any drugs or large sums of cash, all that stuff. But chametz they'll get through. Chametz they'll be able to get through. If they want to bring chametz, and they want to bring it, they can bring it. They should probably burn after they do bidikah chametz, before they get on the plane, they should get rid of all their chametz. They don't have to start a fire, they can just get rid of it completely. That would be,
But then on Shabbat they'll say...
yeah, on Shabbat they'll say conference. Okay,
Yeah.
we're now Friday afternoon. We're coming into Shabbat. We have a real challenge on Shabbat. We have a mitzvah, probably a mitzvah from the Torah, to have 3 meals on Shabbat. 1 on Friday night and 2 on Shabbos day. 1 on Shabbos morning and 1 for Slash Lishit. Against that, we have 3 isurim, 3 things that are forbidden. 1, at a certain point, on Shabbos morning in Jerusalem at 10 o'clock in the morning, the issur to eat chametz kicks in. Next, the Yushalmi says that you're not allowed to eat matzah on Erev Pesach. We'll have to get back to that and figure out when is that Erev Pesach. And number 3, that the rabbis made a decree that you have to refrain from eating a meal or large amounts of food on Erev Pesach from the 10th hour, that's like 3:45 in the afternoon, so that you come into Pesach with an appetite to eat the matzah. So we have 3 things that are forbidden. Forbidden chametz, forbidden to eat matzah at a certain time, and forbidden to eat a big meal late in the afternoon from 3:45 in the afternoon. So now let's talk about, with that in mind, how we're going to do our Pesach meals. Okay. So the easiest, our Shabbos meal. So the easiest way, and the way that, can I just ask, is there anyone here of a Sephardi tradition? Anyone who's following Sephardi traditions? We'll get, are you Sephardim? Are you?
No.
No, okay, we've got one Sephardi here, and the rest are Ashkenazi. So I'm going to aim mainly Ashkenazi, and I'll slip in a little bit of Sephardi. I'll believe that Rabbanit Navid probably knows the answer anyway, so I'm not too worried here. So I'm going to try and teach mainly Ashkenazi tradition here. Okay.
Also recording, there's a lot of Sparty on there.
There are a lot of that. Okay, so I'll try and hit Sephardi possible too. We're going to leave, if you're Yemenite, it's a whole different story, but we'll try and get this Sephardi and Ashkenazi here. Okay, Friday night dinner, one of the easiest ways to do it is actually to eat bread. And also Shabbos morning. The way you do that is your whole house will be kosher to Pesach. I will come over from shul Friday night. The table will have a beautiful Shabbos tablecloth on it. It'll be kosher to Pesach. The whole house is kosher to Pesach. And I'll have a plastic sheet on it, disposable plastic sheet. A Kiddush cup. We will make Kiddush. We'll drink Kiddush. I will then put on the table a little bit of salt, remove the salt shaker from the table, bring some pitot, because they don't crumble a lot, cover them with a napkin, paper napkin. We will all then go and wash, and we will sit at the table and have the beginning of our meal with lechem, Mishnah, 2 loaves of pita. Every person should ideally eat a kibetza of pita, that's about half a pita, but minimally at least a kazayat, that's like a quarter of an average size pita. It's better to eat a kibetza because some people say their Shabbos meal needs a kibetza bread, and to wash your hands and say al natilat yadayim might need a kibetza of bread. But there is a lenient opinion that says in both those questions a kazayat of bread is enough, a quarter of the pita. We will then eat that, and then we will shake ourselves off from all the crumbs. I will do these, and then in a minute we're going to wrap up the tablecloth. We're going to clear that all away, and then we'll bring the rest of the meal with kosher Pesach food and kosher Pesach vessels. Some people in the morning, we're going to do this before the last time for eating chametz, and that is in Jerusalem around 10 in the morning. So my shul will daven early. We'll daven with sunrise. There'll be a 7 o'clock minyan, maybe a 7:30, 8 o'clock minyan. They'll daven quickly. They'll finish by 9:30. All the Chabadniks, I'm really sorry. It's going to be a hard life for you. I don't know what's going to happen. Right. So then one time a year you'll be like Litvaks and you'll daven early. Welcome here to shul for everyone. So we're going to come and we're going to. You have to finish the bread, not the whole meal. You have to finish that bread by 10 in the morning. Now, what do you do with the leftover bread or the crumbs? So, first of all, there are people who are really uptight about this, and a person should not be really uptight. It's not good to go into Pesach really uptight. One way people do this is they eat on the balcony, or they eat in the hallway. If you're going to do that, it'd be really, 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 really good if you could make it that the place where you make kiddush and eat the bread, you can see to the place you're going to eat the rest of the meal. If you can't see, for example, your balcony is on the rooftop, and then you're coming down to eat the Pesach meal in the house, you do have a problem with the change of locations and changing blessings. If you really need to do that, there is on who to rely. There is, if you had in mind when you wash that you're going to go downstairs and continue the meal, even though you're not continuing it with bread, there is on who to rely. It'd be good to avoid that. I'm going to sit inside, I think. I don't know exactly when I think we're going to sit inside. The Gemara says the crumbs that fall on the ground are nullified in and of themselves. They're just crumbs, and they're nullified. Of course, if you actually see a piece of pita that fell, you should pick it up and put it in the disposable thing. But tiny little crumbs, when we go like this on your beard, you go like this, those bits it's fine. They're nullified. They're going to fall on the ground. They're nothing. Calm, deep breaths. Everything is fine. You're all going to be okay. What do you do if you do have large pieces or pitot you overestimated, you now have some left? So here's what you can do with what's left. You can break it into pieces that are less than the size of the kazayit, into smallish pieces, and you can throw it to the wind. I suggested this on my Shabbos table, and my mother-in-law pointed out that will just land on the balcony of the people downstairs, at which point my son said, not my problem. But I don't think we want to do that, right? Throwing to the wind is not a good idea. If you do have a big garden and there are lots of birds who are going to come in, that's one option. Next option is you can take it and put it in the garbage bin. In America, I think they call that the trash can. This only helps if the trash can is not yours. The garbage bin, the trash can in your kitchen is yours. And putting it there now just means that instead of having chametz on your table, you now have chametz in your trash can, but they're both yours, and you broke Pesach if you keep that in there. So you need to put it in the trash can that is not yours.
Why
So
would that
well,
not be
I grew
nullified as opposed to the crumbs that fell?
It depends if it's bigger than a kazayit or less than a kazayit. And it depends if it's dirty or not dirty. So it'd be better in Israel, our garbage bins, there are two types of garbage bins. There are ones that are public garbage bins, like the ones they have outside Nishmat, and that's for sure okay. You can take them and put them in the public garbage bins. Then there are garbage bins that actually belong to the council but are kept inside the grounds of the apartment buildings. They're green, the wheels are kept inside the ground. That's a little bit trickier, but in my opinion that's also okay. Why? Because the garbage bins themselves belong to the council, they don't belong to you. When you put the chametz in there, you are going to forego all ownership. That's why you're going to say at 11 o'clock, remember we said before 11:20, you're going to say kol chamira, all chametz that I have, it should be nullified and not mine. It's now in someone else's, the council's ownership, in their container. Believe me, the Council of Israel, each council sells their chametz. I'll get your question in 1 minute, and you don't have any problem with that. In my opinion, that's also okay. There are people who are strict, but in my opinion, that's fine. Another option is, if you sell chametz, you can just wrap up that tablecloth or the extra bit. You can just put it in the cupboard with the whiskey. I mean, you're selling chametz, you're selling whiskey. You can for sure sell the crumbs of chametz, the tablecloth, and you can sell all that.
Who wants that crumbs of chametz? Who wants to buy that?
Oh, so it's very interesting who wants to buy it. I'll spend half a minute on it. I'll tell you who wants to buy it.
Which I don't know.
So I'll tell you who wants to buy it. I heard this from one of the big gedolim in Israel, Rav Rosh Hashanah. He says like this. He says that the sale of chametz to the goy is one of the greatest business investments that any businessman would ever make. Why? He buys the chametz from us. He puts down a prepayment. He doesn't pay the whole price because all the chametz of the state of Israel is millions, but he pays several thousands as a down payment. He knows, and he's being told and made very clear, and previous years have taught him, that after 7 days, the Jews are going to want to buy it back. We buy it back for more than we paid. We buy it back for a good 150% more than the down payment he put. So he is investing $5,000 and he knows in a week he's going to get back $6,000. Believe me, he does not care if there is one more crumb or one less crumb there. The sale actually goes into effect Erev Shabbat, and he doesn't care if you ate one or two of his pitot. Just like if I bought an apartment in where's it? Boston. Who's ever going to go to Boston, a city, Bo Satan, a city where Satan lives? Like, I'm never going to buy there. But I bought a house there, and I'm going to sell it another week. Do I care if the blind is opened or cracked or the window is this or that? No. Close brackets. Believe me, the sale is good. It's a good sale. People who do not sell real chametz, that option is not an option. So the last option would be to flush it down the toilet. Make it into small pieces, flush it down the toilet. So let's just go with cover option number 1. Make your Pesach meals with bread. Make sure that you do it on an empty table, not to mix it with the Pesach dishes or your Shabbos meals. Do them on bread. Do it before 10 o'clock in the morning to finish the bread before 10 o'clock in the morning. The remains you have to get rid of in one of the options we said, to the wind, to a public garbage bin, to the bathroom, to being sold. And then you should, by 10 o'clock, just before 10 o'clock, you should go and wash your mouth out and brush your teeth if you're a person who brushes their teeth on Shabbat, or at least wash your mouth out, make sure there's no crumbs left, and then continue your meal. Some people break that morning meal up into 2. That is, they'll come, they will make it, they will wash, they'll eat a kabeitza of bread, they'll bench, they'll go for a walk for 10-15 minutes, they'll come back and wash and have bread again. Why? So they can have their 3rd meal on bread. But the 3rd meal should really be done late in the afternoon. Yeah, but you can't have bread then. Okay, so we'll eat again later in the afternoon without bread. This is a chumrah, it's a stringency, and it should not be done if it's going to make you under pressure. I think the word we hear over here was crazy. If it's going to make you stressed. If though you davened with sunrise and you finished davening by 8 in the morning, you came, you make kiddush, you wash, you had the bread, you benched, you can wash your mouth, you go for a walk, you come back, wash again, you want to do it. It's a nice chumrah. The Ramah and the Shulchan Aruch, both Rav Yosef Karo and Rav Moshe Isserles did not do this. They did not suggest this. But believe me, as Jewish people, we can make stringencies throughout the generations, and it's a nice one, but not at any price. Questions until now? Yeah.
About adding your crumbs or extra chametz to
The sale.
on Shabbos. Is that doing a Kenyan?
No, because
But
actually you
it's
sold
not
everything
Friday.
before. The question to ask is how can you eat
So
the
you're
pitot?
allowed
The pitot that you're eating on Friday night actually already belong to the goy. He's just letting you eat them. You're actually eating the goy's thing, but you don't. The bread you eat doesn't have to be your bread for a Shabbos meal. The matzahs are going to sell to you because the matzahs have to be yours. Yeah.
So for destroying the leftover pitot from the morning, can you just pour some like cleaning liquid and make it
People suggest this. Theoretically, yes. Practically, I don't think you should do it. One, you would have to set aside the cleaning fluid and everything to make sure it's not muksa. You have to designate it before. Then once you pour it on it during Pesach, that stuff that's not ruined is muksa. And it's also really disgusting. And I don't know why you would want to do that. Then you've got all these other, but theoretically it's okay. Okay, quick, yes sir.
Is there a Tanai in the contract with the boy that we're allowed to eat his chametz?
Yeah.
His chametz?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you need it, but they write it in. It's in there. Okay. What happens if you're in a place where you don't want to use bread? Why don't you want to use bread? Of course, man, that's dangerous. You've got all this bread in there. Okay, I just go to the place. Are you crazy? Or if it's in the army or a hospital or a hotel. Can you just imagine walking into Kibbutz Lavi Hotel the whole week? You're going to stay there, and as you sit down for Friday night meal, you kind of whip out a bag with 2 little challah rolls and say, "Don't worry, I'll take care." The mashgiach would have the non-Jewish army service come in and physically lift you up and expel you from the hotel on Shabbos if you brought chametz into the wrong hotel. And correctly, all the hospitals in Israel, they can't do this.
Because they're also not serving on plastic necessarily.
Right? They're not serving on plastic. They just can't do this. So what do you do then? So we said there's a Yerushalmi that says that you can't have matzah on Erev Pesach. You beg my pardon, I'm just quoting a Gemara. The Gemara Yerushalmi says you can't have matzah on Erev Pesach. It's similar to a young man who has relations with his fiancée in his father-in-law's house on the day before the wedding. I always learned the book Maselet Yesharim, which talks about the great meter of zrizut, alacritousness, that you should speedily run to do the mitzvah. But apparently there are some that you've got to wait till the right time. And one of them is being with your wife. You should first have a chuppah. This is standard Jewish practice. It's very interesting because at the chuppah we're going to say Sheva Brachot. And that's what's going to permit the couple to be together. On Seder night, say some of the commentators, we're going to have 7 brachot before we get to the matzah. Isn't that beautiful? We're going to marry the matzah. There are actually 9 blessings, but don't worry, you have to figure it out. They figure it out somehow, they make it into 7, but you're going to marry the matzah. It's really beautiful. But you can't eat it from when can you not eat it? So there is an opinion, the Ramban says you can't have it from the night before, from the time of Birkat Chametz. But the Mishnah Berurah doesn't hold like that. He says you can't have it from the morning before. It's true. Some people have a custom from Rosh Chodesh or for 30 days, but that's just a custom. Halacha is you can't have it on the day before. One opinion, you can't even have it on the night before. But mainstream halacha says from the morning. But there is an opinion that says it's from the time that chametz becomes forbidden to you. If you are in a hotel or in a hospital or in a place where there is no chametz, and you can't have bread rolls, the mitzvah to eat matzah and to have a Shabbos meal would for sure would win halachically. And if you're in such a place, you should wash, take 2 pieces of matzah, wash, say Motzei lechem min haaretz, not alachinat matzah, Motzei lechem min haaretz, and eat a kazayit, a kibetz would be ideal, of matzah on Friday night, and do the same thing again on Shabbos morning before.
Just a little bit.
It'd be good to be a kibetza, which would be 2 or 3 kazaitim, a slice of matzah. It'd be good if you had 2/3 of a matzah or a slice of matzah. Would be very good, and that would be the correct thing to do. A person who needs to do that should do it. There are another option. There's a thing called matzah ashira. Matzah ashira means rich man's matzah, rich matzah. We on Seder night for the mitzvah use matzah lechem oni, poor man's bread. That's just flour and water. But you could make rich. Instead of water, you would use fruit juices or eggs. The Sperling rule that this is kosher Pesach. and they eat it all Pesach long. However, not for mitzvah matzah, because they too believe that to remember the exodus from Egypt, we have to have lechem oni. So on Seder night, to do the mitzvah, they have lechem oni. But for the other part of Pesach, the Shulchan Aruch rules that for the meals on Pesach, they can use matzah ashira. The Ashkenazim, the Ramah, rules that our custom is not to eat this unless you're elderly or sick. If you look on the boxes of egg matzahs, they have a beautiful picture of a matzah and an egg, and it says egg matzahs, and on tiny little writing on the side in Hebrew letters, very small, it says Ayin Shulchan Aruch Ramah Siman da 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 Mishnah, as if you're walking around the supermarket with your Shulchan Aruch in hand to look it up. I get so upset with them. Like, who's that? I once was however, that matzah ashira you could certainly use on Friday night, and you could use it on Shabbos morning, certainly before 10 o'clock, and that would be better than regular matzah. So if you're in a kosher Pesach setting and you're not allowed to have bread, so if you have the option matzah for Seder night or matzah ashira, if you're Sephardi, for sure go for the matzah ashira, and you could do that until 3:45 in the afternoon. If you're Ashkenazi, go for the matzah ashira. You should try and finish it by 10. If you can't, you got to the Chabad Minyan, Nebuch, and you didn't finish davening, and now it's 11:12. So there's an opinion that says you can have that until midday, which is at 12:40, and there's even an opinion that says you can have that until 3:45 in the afternoon, matzah ashira. The same thing would be true with boiled matzah. Rav Avadia Yosef Zitzal says you should take your soup, bring it to the boil on Friday before Shabbos. You can take it off the fire, it's still really hot. Take a big packet of matzahs, take the plastic off. Put the matzahs into the soup, let them absorb the soup, gently remove them. You could hang them up on the line or put them out on something until they dry out. You will now have soggy, boiled matzahs. You can't use them for Seder night, but they are Motzei, and so that too you could use for Friday night and Shabbos morning, and you could probably even use that until 3:45 in the afternoon. Very good.
Question, those cookies that are made with,
Yeah, them is a
starch,
lot.
until what point can you?
Ashkenazi-
on Shabbos?
Ashkenazi can probably have those until 10 in the morning, and Sephardi those who eat the Sephardi wheat, they can have that to 3:45 in the afternoon.
And so, guys, one thing about the cookies, just because the Marshall says that they are chametz gamur, and that even though technically the Sfaradim say that you're allowed to eat them, the companies are not careful not to have any water come in, and mamash, it's like the biggest hashash chametz.
Okay, so I just put this in the thing. Matzah ashira, everything I mentioned was the theoretical argument between Sephardim and Ashkenazim. When it comes to actually making matzah ashira in Israel, there's a huge division in the Sephardi world. Rav Avadia Yosef's blessed memory gave his hector and his signature to the people who make those cookies, and he believed they were matzah ashira. Rav Mordechai Eliyahu Zitzal, previous Sephardi chief rabbi, thought, like we just heard, that they were chametz gamur, and you can't even keep them in your house. Matzah ashira, Ashkenazim can keep in their house, but he believed these were chametz ashira, and he says you can't have them at all in your house. In which case, though, you could still have them until 10 in the morning. I wouldn't put them on your Pesach dishes, but you could still have them until 10 in the morning. Everyone should ask their own rabbi about that. Okay.
And you do, what product is it?
It's those cookies that you see all around, the cookies that look, they're like so like little flowers with a lot of different holes, okay? And they say that they're kosher Pesach for
Sephardim.
but the truth is that when they're being made, a lot of times people are not careful, they wash their hands, they have like some water inside them, and even a little bit of water inside matzah ashira makes it completely chametz. The Rav Arishuv says not only can you not have them on Pesach, but you can't eat them after Pesach, but chametz shabbal of Pesach.
Yeah, my family also, we're not looking for matzah ashira. I once went to my father-in-law, blessed memory, who was a big Rav. In the end of his life, he came to Aliyah, and I went to visit him on Chol Hamoed, and there he was eating egg matzahs. And I thought, it's so hard to see the hector, and he's a very old man. And so I gently said to him, I said, Rabbi, you know these are the egg matzahs, it's really only for people who are old or sick. And he raised his eyebrow as he held the piece of matzah and he said to me, "No, and what am I?" And he just holds it sick. But that's not the ones that are made with the rubber budgie heksha. They're one different. Okay, I have 5 minutes. I want to talk to you now about the biggest question. Can we have kidneyot on Shabbos? Because the Ashkenazim, bless their souls, took upon themselves not to eat kidneyot for 7 days. Can we have kidneyot here? So, until the last time for chametz, for sure we can have kidneyot. That is, for sure we can eat kidneyot until 10 in the morning. According to the Prima Gordon, you could eat kidneyot until the festival comes in.
But what about the dishes?
Well, I'm going to get to dishes in a minute. So it's a machloket. When did Ashkenazim accept kidneyot? The Prima Gordon said we accepted it only from sunset. However, the major practice is to accept it from the time of chametz, which would be 10 in the morning. My rabbi and teacher, Rav Henkel Zatzal, he told me that you should hold by 10 in the morning, but he told me that 1 year, all the milky, the yogurts that they bought, he then discovered on Erev Pesach that they all had kidneyot in them, and so he told his family they're not going to survive a week, these yogurts, they're not going to stay fresh for a week. He said all of Erev Pesach we were relying on the Prima Gordon and quickly finishing them up. But someone who holds that they can eat it until the sunset, they have on who rely. It's not the major practice. The major practice is 10 o'clock in the morning. Now we have the vessels. Can we put it on our kosher Pesach vessels? We said everything. If you're using disposables, and that's no problem. But can you make rice, cook it in your kosher Pesach pot, and then serve it hot on your kosher Pesach dishes? Can you do that? I see it's very interesting to look from this vantage point, to look at the community here, and you see all these ladies going, no. So this is a real paradox in halacha. Let me explain. There are 2 ways we can describe kidneyot, and both are correct. One way is we can say, kidneyot, it's a minhag. It's just a minhag. Or we can say, listen, kidneyot is actually written in the Shulchan Aruch. The Ramah says that it's a minhag that became halacha. It's a halachic minhag. You would think that if it's a halachic minhag, we're going to be much stricter than if it's just a minhag. But the opposite is true. If we say it's a halacha, and we use our halachic language, for sure we could have it. Why? First of all, cold and cold doesn't make any taste into vessels. Second of all, if you cooked it beforehand, the taste that's absorbed will become nullified. It's bittul. It's lo ben yomo. It doesn't transfer. You're not going to cook in the pot all over Shabbos. It's going to be more than 24 hours. We would have all these halachic rules to totally permit it. But if you say it's a minhag, just a minhag, then we do it just like the minhag. And that is, are you crazy? You're going to put kidneyot on my vessels? And Be'emet, if you look in the halachic works, the Marasham and others, they say, if you have to give kidneyot to a child or a sick person, you're Ashkenazi, you should buy new plates. And all the halachic rabbis scratch their head and say, what are you talking about? Kidneyot isn't chametz, halachic, it's no problem. I would say there are 2 practices. One is, first of all, it's permitted to eat kidneyot. It's very permitted to eat kidneyot on the Shabbos, certainly until 10 in the morning. Someone who wants to eat it until sunset has on who to rely. Certainly until 10 in the morning, it's no worse than chametz. Number 2, you could do that on disposable plates, it would be no problem. Number 3, a person who wants to cook kidneyot in their dishes and serve it hot on their dishes has major halachic basis for doing so. And they can feel very comfortable halachically doing so. Nonetheless, I don't know if they can feel comfortable minhag-wise, traditional-wise. And that every person has to look in their community and look and see what their mothers would say. Would they be fainting at the thought of you cooking rice in your pots? I would suggest that a person who wants to find a middle ground, you should cook all your Pesach food in the pots, and then cook the kidneyot for Shabbos last. Then, by the time you come to cook in those pots again, it's not ben yomo, it's more than 24 hours, and you've got even more going for you. It's also Erev Pesach, so at that point it's not even forbidden, there's a lot of rules. There is on who to rely. Both those approaches are acceptable halacha. You'll find in many, many halachic books about Pesach that Ashkenazi could not put kidneyot in their pots, and they should not do it. If you look in the halacha inside, you'll see that the halacha reads that it's 100% acceptable, and every person has to find how to merge those two. I see our time is finished. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer. I'd like to give everyone a bracha that they should all be zokeh to find the afikomet. I will say in all seriousness, just before we turn the microphone off, this, I'm sure someone else has said this in the course of the day, this is the festival of freedom. This is Chag HaChirut. We should all, please God, be davening. All the hostages should be home for Seder. And if they're not, God forbid, by then the power of Chirut, of freedom, should be revealed in the world. Everyone should come home. The power of redeeming the world, all our soldiers should have every success to uproot the evil in the world, to bring the light of the world. Our leaders should be filled with wisdom and understanding in order to make the correct decisions for Klal Yisrael. And the world should come out to a real spring and a viv of freedom for the Jewish people and for the world at large. Should have a Chag Sameach.
Thank you.